Namaste dear students. I am Umesh Bharadwaj, your science teacher. I am back with one more video tutorial on the lesson Our Environment. First of all, we will talk about the specific objectives that we will attain through this chapter. After studying this chapter, you will be able to understand the importance of food, food chain, food web, and the flow of energy in the ecosystem. We will also talk about the dependence of different organisms on each other for food and the sequential flow of energy through them. So let's start with this chapter. First of all, we have to talk about what is the meaning of word environment. Basically, the word environment has been taken from the French word environner, which means to encircle or to surround. Means all those things which surround us, whether it is living or non-living, they constitute our environment. Thus, it is clear from the term that environment includes combination of both the living beings as well as the non-living things. Ecosystem is called the structural and functional unit of the environment. Ecosystem can be defined as the self-sustaining structural and functional interaction between living and non-living components of the environment. The ecosystem components can be classified into two categories. If they are living, they are called biotic components. If they are non-living, they are called abiotic components. The living components of the ecosystem includes plants, animals, and microorganisms. Non-living components of the ecosystem include sunlight, air, soil, water. And the interaction between living and non-living components of the ecosystem together make up a system which is called ecosystem. Ecosystem is of two types, natural and artificial. Natural ecosystems include pond, forests and lake, while artificial ecosystems include garden, aquarium and crop field. The natural ecosystems are maintained, managed by nature, whereas the artificial ecosystems are managed by man. Let's study ecosystem and its components in detail. As discussed earlier, ecosystem is an interacting system between living beings and the non-living components of the environment. It is of two types, natural and artificial. Components of the ecosystem include biotic and abiotic. Biotic components include producers, which are green plants which produce their own food by the process of photosynthesis. Consumers are those organisms which obtain their food directly or indirectly from green plants. They may include herbivorous organisms which feed directly on green plants, carnivores which feed on herbivorous organisms, and omnivores which feed on both plants and animal materials. Decomposers are the organisms which decompose or decay the dead remains of plants and animals and obtain their nutrition from them. As an example of producers, green plants can be taken. Consumers include herbivores, which include sheep, goat, cow, buffalo, deer. Omnivores include human beings, cockroach, crow, cat, dog, etc. And among decomposers, we have the examples of bacteria and fungi. Abiotic components include minerals, sunlight, temperature, wind, water, soil, air, etc. Now we will talk about food chain. In an environment, all organisms are dependent on each other. So there is a sequential flow of energy from one organism to the next and so on. This flow of energy through an ecosystem constitutes a chain of organisms which is called food chain. They usually start from producer level, that is plants who are able to prepare their food, and end with carnivorous organism. In a food chain, an organism gets food from one group of organism. On your screen you can see examples of different food chain. A grass is eaten by deer, which in turn is eaten by lion. So grass is producer, deer is primary consumer, and lion is the secondary consumer over here. In the next example, grass is eaten by insects, insects are eaten by frog, and frog are eaten by snake. So here you can see producer, primary consumer, secondary consumer, tertiary consumer, 4-step food chain. Similarly, we have 5-step food chain. Grass is eaten by moth, moth is a type of insect. Moth is eaten by frog, frog is eaten by snake, and snake is finally eaten by hawk. Hawk is called the quaternary consumer, the 4th level consumer in this. The food chain thus begins with the producer level and ends with the top carnivorous level. The number of steps or organisms in a food chain are limited to 5 only. This is because when the energy transfers from one organism to another, then there is a decline in the energy, due to which a food chain can support only 4 to 5 trophic levels. Trophic levels that we are talking about is actually the name given to every step of the food chain where transfer of food energy takes place in the ecosystem. The first trophic level consists always of producers, the second trophic level consists of primary consumer, the third trophic level consists of secondary consumers, and the fourth trophic level consists of tertiary consumers. Since the transfer of food energy decreases at every trophic level, so the number of trophic levels are limited and do not exceed 4 or 5. On your screen you can see the transfer of energy from producer to the carnivorous level is shown through a pyramidal structure which are called ecological pyramids. The bottom of this pyramid, the broad base of this pyramid is occupied by producer, and the apex is occupied by the tertiary consumers or the top carnivores. The broad base of the pyramid also gives us information about the number of organisms which are always higher at the lower trophic level. But the number of organisms keep on declining when you move from producer to the carnivorous level. It is because of the energy consideration. The trophic level which has higher energy level support large number of organisms, while the trophic level which has low energy level support only few organisms. That's why there are only few tigers and lions, but there are so many producers, that is plants and vegetation on earth. From this slide you can easily understand the movement of energy through trophic levels. Energy move from producer plants to primary consumer, which are always herbivores, that is plant eaters, and then the energy is transferred to the secondary consumer, that is carnivore. Thus food chain is a series of organisms in an ecosystem taking part as various biotic levels. So this was all about our environment. I will bring next video for you very soon to make you understand